Hello.
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 Hi there.
Okay, I guess we will get started. I just sent the new schedule out for 2024 last night, so maybe not everybody got it, but I think for this year we'll do every third Wednesday of the month. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay,
Yeah.
let me share my screen here. Okay, so this is the January 17th contributor meeting for Hyperledger Fabric. We'll talk mostly about the Fabric version 3.0 work items. We'll talk a little bit about the CI updates and the admin SDK. Anything else anybody wants to add today? Okay. The Fabric 3 updates. So Sato-san, thank you for finishing out the query approved chain codes. That was a good enhancement that's been complete now. Um, the Smart BFT work we talked in December with the folks working on this. We think they had a good grasp of the work and who was going to do which pieces. I see Yoav just joined. Yoav, is there any other Smart BFT update that you want to mention at this time? Well, Yoav's still coming on. He's on mute. All right, we'll circle back with Yoav.
Yeah, now can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
What was the question?
Well, I was just saying in December we put names against all the remaining work items for Smart BFT. Did you have any other updates you want to mention at this time?
No, the list is still correct. We are making progress in all those areas. Migration is almost over. The block pooler, we completed the work for the peer, and it's merged. Now we're moving for the order. Um, yeah, it's up to date.
Okay. Okay, moving on then, removal of the old lifecycle, version 1 lifecycle. So Artem has been making kind of slow but steady progress on this. So we'll keep that going in the background. Transition from GitHub package errors. So Bauhau, he's not on the call, but he said he would, he's thinking about this and was gonna maybe propose an overall approach for this. Otherwise, we'll do the simple replacement in the issue. We had another package that had the same signatures for the air handling that we could utilize if we don't want to do a bigger work effort at this time. The protocol buffer API v2, there's been a little discussion about this. Basically, we're talking about maybe updating all the Fabric repositories up to API v2 for protobuf. That would require a little bit of testing just to give ourselves some feeling of confidence that there's going to be no issues with, for example, version 2 peers and orderers interoperating with version 3 peers and orderers. I don't see any issues because the wire format is the same, but we need to at least verify that.
So
Mark, do you have any other comments on that one? Or who is asking a question?
It's you. Can you
Yoav?
just briefly mention what's the reasoning behind this?
So the protobuf version 1 has been deprecated a couple years now. And they're trying to encourage everybody to move up to the API v2. So these are new bindings that should not impact users in any way, but we'll need to test that out to be sure.
And we are still on V1?
Yes, we're still on v1. Like Mark and Andy had some good success with the Gateway SDK. They updated that to API v2. I think that was the first repository to be updated. I don't think they had any issues with that. And so that kind of paved the way for doing some of these other ones. Okay. And there's somebody else, David Kahala, mentioned he was interested in working on this one, I think. So we'll check back with David to see if he's able to make any progress on this. Let's see, removal of gossiping of blocks. This was the peer-to-peer gossiping. This one is likely going to be deferred. But anyway, we do advise people to turn this off these days and for the peers to get their blocks from the ordering service. I think that's about it. So once we complete these items, we should be good to have a initial release of Fabric v3. Okay, let's move on then to the CI discussion. So we had a deadline to get off of Azure pipelines at the end of last year, end of 2023, because Hyperledger was not going to pay for Azure pipelines anymore. We only had one more repository left on it anyways. That was Fabric Test. I did switch over, at least I think what was the most important test about HSM over to GitHub Actions that also does kind of some end-to-end testing as well, but using the HSM PKCS 11. So I think that was the best test to move over, or at least the most important test to move over to make sure that keeps working. There's also a bunch of what we called interop tests in the Fabric test repository. Those basically tested a combination of the SDK languages and the chain code languages together. It was kind of a duplicate anyways, because we do have those tests also in each of the SDK and chain code repositories. So there's some overlap there. I thought it wasn't a big deal to get rid of that from Fabric Test and reduce that maintenance burden and just focus those tests in the actual SDK and chain code repositories. Most of those SDK and chain code repositories do tests at like nightly or weekly. There was one or two that didn't, that I was going to switch over to do nightly tests. Once we do that, I think we'll be in a pretty good position. I do have a question here, like we might want to run those against Fabric 2.5 and Fabric 3.0. So we could have a matrix test to test both of those every night. But Mark, you've been active in this area. Do you have anything else you want to mention? I mean, you haven't been active lately, but
that one of the chain code repos, and I forget which one, I just vaguely remember seeing one of them using init integration tests, pulling interop tests out of Fabric Test and running them. So I'll have to have a dig and see if any of the test coverage is really relying on what's in Fabric Test that we might lose by removing that. But it was run as part of the test within the chain code, not within Fabric Test itself.
Yeah, I did an inventory and I was going to get with you, Mark, because you've got kind of the most experience with that. I didn't have a complete for this call yet, but I looked at Fabric Gateway, I looked at the SDK repositories, I looked at the chain code repositories. Some of them pulled from like JFrog to get the latest dev images. The next bullet here says we could potentially keep that in place, but switch over to GitHub package repository to keep those dev images for the Fabric Docker images. But most of the tests were in the SDK and chain code repositories themselves, and then Fabric Test would copy them over. But I'll get with you on the complete inventory on that.
Using GitHub packages for the Docker images sounds like a good move, I think.
Yeah, we talked
And
about that
yeah,
in the
you're right.
past.
Certainly most of the SDK and chain code repositories have their own set of tests that they run on a schedule. The only question, running against Fabric 2.5 and 3, I think pretty much all of them run only against Fabric 2.5 at the
Right.
peer end. And we don't expect any interop issues, but you're right. Perhaps having a matrix that tests both of those would be a good thing.
Yep. Okay, anyway, that's what I'm looking at in my spare time. Okay, over to Admin SDK. Sam, you want to give an update on what's been going on lately?
Yeah, for admin SDK, we just merged the NPR, which support 3.0 current Tech Pro version, with the Smart BFT supported. So I suppose if there are no big change, so admin SDK is ready for 3.0 with BFT support. And currently, well, for moving next, maybe for Fabric CLI there, but considering there are lots of commands there. Peer has a lot of command for chain code, for channel, etc. So currently, maybe if we want to build admin CLI based on the admin SDK, the latest version, maybe we need to have a feature branch, or otherwise the branch will be very, it looks like a huge feature merge back to the admin CLI branch or default branch. So what do you think, Dave?
You're saying about adding the remaining functions for chain code management and channel management?
Yeah, well, last year we have a proposal, based on current admin SDK to build admin Fabric CLI. There is a repo named as Fabric CLI, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if we based on current admin SDK to build that Fabric CLI, which means lots of work need to do and lots of code change, it will be a huge PR. So inside that, I want to have a development branch and make the command line step by step, or say sub by each sub command there as breakdown to the, and we can reveal the PR one by one before it's ready.
Okay, yeah, having a dev branch. I think that makes sense. I could create that. And then when all the PRs are complete, we can maybe rename the dev branch to main, something like that. Because what's currently there in the
just
CLI is
merge
not.
the dev. Yeah.
Yeah,
Or just merge from the dev branch to the main branch.
Yeah, there's not much activity in the main branch, so there shouldn't be any conflicts there.
Yeah, so I suppose currently admin SDK has a major feature for most of them, and we can just start the works on the admin CLI and figure out what we may missing and enhance for admin SDK.
Yeah, okay. So you want me to go ahead and create this feature branch in the CLI repository?
I'm not sure if I have the privilege to do that. Could you please do that for me and let me know later?
Sure, I'll do that.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, anything else for today? Okay, I guess that's it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Happy
you.
New Year. Yep.
Bye.
Okay, we'll see you. Bye.
Bye.
See you, bye.